Hey everybody out there on the internets, welcome back to another edition of Front Seat First Takes. Tonight, I'm reviewing Ferdinand. And before I do that, I need to review my viewing audience that I had. The people in there with me. Oh dear God. First of all, I thought, since I always go to the late show. The latest that any of these things come out, I usually go the very last show of the night. And I got in and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be just me. Because, first of all, this is debuting the same weekend as Star Wars, which everybody else is going to. I'm not. And I love Star Wars, but I refuse to do that because there's gonna be too many people there, and they're all gonna nerd it up to a degree that I just don't want to deal with, so that's just not gonna happen. So I'm probably gonna wait a good week or two before I even decide to go see it, because I just know people are just gonna sit there and ooh and on. Ooh, this means this. I'm just not into that right now. I never have. But so I thought I was going to this theater alone. There were two young girls in the back. They had to be no older than, I'd say, 14 at the most. So it's two young girls and me, and they're way in the back, like right by the projector, because as soon as they got up, I saw their heads go across the projection. They had this conversation, and this is the reason why, when I go out in public, I always have headphones on, because stupid shit hurts my head. I have this, because it happens to me all the time, at school. Like, I get students saying dumb things. The best has always been, I had a student when I was in North Dakota actually say that if the moon disappeared, we'd no longer have night. Which is, every time I share that story, it just dumbfounds people. But there was a good one, not near that level. Nothing will ever eclipse nothing will ever eclipse the moon. But they were talking about weather, and they were talking about how Mississippi isn't really cold, which is only like an hour south of where I live now, and Tennessee is faux cold, which I agree with that, because I really don't think it's all that cold. I mean, it's like maybe 45 degrees right now, and it's, you know, after 11 at night here in Tennessee, and to me that's warm, because I know back home it's already below freezing, and that's never fun for anybody back home. I mean, just like a threat of snow here makes people insane. But they were talking about Michigan, and they were talking, one of them was like, well, you know, because Michigan's surrounded by oceans. And the other one didn't say, hey dummy, they're not oceans, they're lakes. Not only are they lakes, they're Great Lakes, which means they don't really exist much any other place. Michigan is not surrounded by oceans. Dear God. So, my audience gets an F for just general ignorance. Oh, God. But the movie itself, Ferdinand, I was pleasantly surprised, but not overwhelmed. I already had trepidations with this movie, because in the trailers that I did see prior to this movie, they were really banking on the fact that John Cena is Ferdinand and Peyton Manning is also in this, so I already had the stigma of the celebrity voice, because I've talked about this in other reviews, that celebrity voices can only go so far in how something is going to be. I mean, if a person's basically playing themselves, yeah, you're gonna get that. Like when Chris Rock plays the zebra in Madagascar. I mean, you're getting Chris Rock. He's not really projecting something else. He's not acting in that traditional sense. That's why I have a mad respect for voice actors, because they have to do what they do without ever being seen. And so I was kind of worried about that, but John is, you can't see him in the movie, thank God, but in terms of actual acting ability for this character, it works. I was a little worried about that, but no, he does well, but I would consider someone who has to do promos when he wrestles should be able to talk. So, I don't know, maybe the next thing I want to see is CM Punk in a movie. Maybe if Sonic the Hedgehog ever got a feature-length film, I'd rather see CM Punk be Sonic the Hedgehog or Knuckles. I don't know why, but that would be at least something to watch. But, overall, the movie's not as bad as I was anticipating, because I was a little nervous regarding those aspects. I never read the book, which was from the 1930s. Was actually banned in Germany by the Nazi Party for reasons. I think it's because it's just a pacifist kind of book, and that's one of the big things that I think resonated with me so well with this movie, is because, for those of you who don't know, I do have my PhD, and even though I'm a communication guy, a lot of my stuff is gender studies, and I don't want to sit here and sing the praises of this film and masculinity studies all the whole time, but I'm just going to say this, and it was inherent in the book as well, but I've never read the whole book. I've basically only looked at the Cliff Notes version of it before I came to see this, because I never had the chance. But it is about a bull who doesn't want to fight, and, you know, like, he confronts the idea that, you know, bulls are always brutish, and, you know, he believed there's just another way to be, just in this, you know, brutish bull. And so they play with that, and in masculinity studies, that's a big thing. Like, oh, you don't always have to be this brute. You can be open and sensitive and share your feelings and stuff like that. And so, in that aspect of it, I enjoyed it. If I wanted to, I'd make a whole analysis of just that one little part that I would totally unpack, but I'm not. And I'm done with that part. As for the rest of the film, Blue Sky Entertainment is... they try. I mean, I'll give them this. It's not like DVD quality, like straight to DVD quality animation in this. It's actually pretty good. You could tell that there was a lot of attention to detail on the animals. I mean, it's not like Zootopia levels of like every individual piece of fur, but it was pretty good on the animals. But on the flip side of that, oh man, I'm choking on my own bullshit. On the flip side of that, they didn't really seem to care about the human characters. Like, I was not a fan of the human design in this film. I really don't know what they were going for. I mean, you have your different types of people. You have like the really skinny beanpoles and really fat people and whatnot, but something about the face design just ruined the whole thing for me. I mean, if you got a good story, I'm not really gonna, you know, bash it, but it was like the one visual glare that I had with this film, because the story is actually quite good. I mean, it still has its quirks. Like, for some odd reason, I don't know why this is such a thing. I try to rationalize it all the time, but I don't know why kids' movies are so fascinated with the butt and fart humor. I know fart humor is like the easiest thing to go to, but sometimes I feel like it's a crutch. Now, it wasn't a total crutch in this film. Like, there's not a whole, you know, not too many references to nut shots or, you know, constantly farting, but there are things to talking to butts and things like that. One thing that I was really curious of how they were going to handle it, just like with the Star, was how do you handle death? Because if you know anything about bullfighting, which is what this movie centers itself around, bulls don't normally live. They die in the arena. And how do you dance around that issue? And they had to do it pretty early on because, spoiler alert, John Cena's father in this movie dies pretty early on. And they do confront the issue of death, like, hey, you're taking on the Matador, you're gonna lose no matter what. And it gets into this other complicated thing where if you're not chosen, you're gonna end up getting sent to the meat factory, which I did not know that bulls were eaten. I mean, I've heard of like Rocky Mountain oysters, which are bull's nuts, but I didn't know people really ate bull. Eating cow is one thing, but I would think all that testosterone after a certain age of a bull would probably make that meat too tough. But apparently in this, it was this the thing. But the overall premise is John Cena, Ferdinand, doesn't want to fight and really just loves flowers. And he lucks out in this version of the tale that he finds he escapes his home after he discovers his father dies and finds a place that is a botanist, a horticulturist, florist, with this gentleman and his daughter. Don't know where the mother is. I don't know why this is always still a trope. You know, the mother's not there. Apparently she died of dead parent syndrome, which I don't understand why that's always such a thing. Like, why can you not have both parents? I'd love to know that. No mention of, like, is she dead? Or are they divorced? Like, nothing. Just father and daughter. Oh, and there's some other characters. The other characters in this, the supporting cast, is good. Some of them aren't developed that well, but it is what it is. Like, Kate McKinnon's the calming goat. Comic relief goat is alright. The issues that Ferdinand has with the other bulls when he comes back, because he ends up being captured after an incident in a town. Those were good character development parts. It was interesting. But a lot of the other characters just not really all that well developed. Sort of just like one trick ponies, if you will. Speaking of ponies, there were dancing horses in this film, and there was a dance-off, because every good film has that dance-off scene, because you gotta fill out that runtime. Just you have to. But the thing, okay, the two things about these horses. Number one, they were gay German horses. There's no other way around it. I mean, they picked on the Siegfried and Roy trope pretty hard, and that was a little weird, but it was serviceable. The other thing was, if you're paying attention to it, they made an incest joke with the horses. One of the horses says after this dance-off, or no, after they first meet Ferdinand, was, this horse, his parents probably weren't in the same family, or something along those lines, like saying that, his parents weren't even related, like, like, you know, like, West Virginia, but it's an incest joke, which, honestly, if it weren't for those two damn kids behind me, I'd have probably laughed my ass off. Because to me, it's like, it's an incest joke, and that's disgusting and funny at the same time. Not necessarily dark, but just a little out there. Yeah, it had its ups and downs. But that's really what I can say about it. It's visually not the best film I've seen. In terms of these cartoon movies. I mean, I just saw Coco before this, so pretty much anything after would have been a letdown. Which, this is still messing with Mexican and Spanish culture. Like, Coco was, you know, Dia de los Muertos, and then this is Spanish bullfighting. So, I don't know, with that aspect, this one didn't do quite the good job that Pixar did. So, on that aspect of, you know, cultural whatever. But still solid, good themes in this movie. Stories solid. It's serviceable. I mean, it's not like, oh my god, this is revolutionary, but it's still, my masculinity studies side of me is screaming like, oh my god, this is great, but I'm also like, yeah, but this is also still got some issues that you have to deal with. One last thing before I get into trailers. I did not know this was a thing. I learned it when I was doing Let's Plays with Eric, back when I was still part of Philly Film Games, about production babies. The first time I ever seen it was in when we finished Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's Sweet 16 License to Drive. Apparently there were 3 babies born during the process of making that video game. There were about 15 to 20 babies born in the process of making this film. I don't want to know that. I don't. Tell me some other shit. Just don't. I don't want to know that, you know, after a hard day of rendering John Cena's eyebrows, you went home and fucked. I don't care. Good for you. You did the natural human thing. You found a moist spot and you popped out a baby. Good for you. That being said, I think it's a little absurd. Because that's the thing about credits that always gets me. It's amazing, like, you have the people who, you know, acted in it, and then you have the staff who was, you know, who was there, and then all of a sudden you got the administrative people, you know, at the very bottom, and then below that, PR is now in there, which I was not privy to prior to this. But they highlighted, these are the PR people that we use to get this message out here to come see this movie. Not that I would have needed that. All I just needed to know was, hey, we're putting out a movie, and I know this dumbass in Tennessee is going to watch it. So, there was that. And now we got production babies. Alright, trailers. I'm done. I'm getting off my high horse. Incredibles 2. I'm tired of seeing that damn thing. If I review it, fine, thank God. I'm tired of seeing this 30 second with the baby blasting his father's hair out. I don't care anymore. Apparently there's also another movie coming out that I just cringe factor already. Gnomeo and Juliet, Sherlock Gnomes. When your trailer highlights not 1, but 4 ass jokes, I already know you're in trouble. It's not gonna be good. It's gonna be the lowest brow shit. And I'm gonna have to watch it. I'm not looking forward to it. It just, no. One thing, though, that I was not, and I'm surprised I saw this trailer, they're making a sequel to Jurassic World. Why? It's just weird to do it, but they're doing it. And Goldblum's back because you need that for reasons. Does him be his fucking character? I don't care that the fucking island's blowing up. I don't care about the goddamn dinosaurs. I mean, you fucked it up after the first one. You should have left well enough alone, but no. 35 fuck years later, or however long it's been, you gotta keep... No, 25. Jesus, you're not that old, Sam. 25 years after the original, you're still gotta shit out more, and it doesn't look fun at all. It just doesn't. It's just... If Michael Bay did something with dinosaurs like Jurassic Park, this is what I anticipate it would be. Except there's not a lot, well, at least in the trailer, there's not a lot of gratuitous cleavage. Although I don't really know how you could do that to a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Food for thought. But if I have to give this movie a grade, I would say B+. Mainly, just like I said, some of the visual stuff is what kills it. I mean, other than that, I love the story. Certain issues with characters, but all around decent story. If you got kids or you just want to kill 2 hours, it wouldn't be a bad one to watch. And that's really all I got to say about that. I'll let you go with that. See you next time. Probably in February, because I think that's the next release date for another animated film, because the last time I checked, it was supposed to be January, but apparently it's nothing until February, so... Bye!